In October of last year, we signed up all of these blocks of states to the European Union in something called the ICAP, the International Climate Action Partnership, which just had a meeting January 22nd in New York, where we are organizing staffing for this that'll be permanently based most likely in Washington. And that will synchronize the existing European carbon trading system with these 3 or possibly soon to be 4 trading blocks within the United States. And obviously each of these trading blocks will be able to trade carbon credits amongst themselves. So what we talked about 15, 16 months ago with a couple governors in Sedona, Arizona, and the fear that 1 or 2 states taking action would not be enough to solve the problem or might drive businesses from our states to other states, we have now solved that problem by getting the majority of the states involved, getting them synchronized and working together, and connecting them to the European Union, where the most aggressive greenhouse gas regulation and market forces are already in existence. So we will, within a year, by this time next year, we will have a truly international carbon market that is going to drive everything that you are doing. So that's a long-winded way of telling you this exciting news, but it's amazing how much has occurred in just a little over a year. And again, I don't think most of you are aware of all of those components. What does that mean? Every state in this country will soon be living in a carbon-constrained world where they're all going to be looking at that pie chart and saying, well, if we've got to get these overall reductions back to 1990 levels by 2020 or whatever each state has adopted, 80%, whatever it might be, by 2050, we can get a certain amount of reductions. Roughly a third of the overall reductions you're going to need will come by capping smokestacks and allowing trading. You might get another 20% of the reductions you're going to need if the Pavley regulations, the tailpipe regulations, go into effect. As you know, we still have not got the waiver from the federal government, and we're suing the federal government over that. I think no matter who the next president is, we'll get that waiver. And obviously more states will then join on, so we'll get some improvements, but that takes time to work into the fleet and to turn over the fleet. So the rest of it is going to have to come from a lot of other sources, and that means whether it's stationary hydrogen, whether it's fuel cells, whether it's even internal combustion of hydrogen. Hydrogen is going to be a very, very important carrier, a very, very important way of dealing with greenhouse gases. And even to the point about coal, it's not going to happen unless we sequester that carbon, and because of what I just related to you about what's happening in the states, the regions, and internationally, that is going to drive more research and development and dollars and investment and innovation into things like sequestration so that we can figure this out from every possible angle. There will be no silver bullet, only silver buckshot. So that's the good news, is that, you know, I know you've probably been hearing, many of you that have been working on this research and investment in companies for many years, that you're just on the cusp, you're just this close, stick it out, you believe me, this is going to be even more relevant than it already is, you're just on the edge of this, you're all going to be zillionaires. Well, now it's actually true. So by all means, your long faith will very soon be rewarded on the world stage, believe me, believe me. Everyone is going to be turning to groups like this for the solutions. They already are, but to the degree that these policy drivers are going to force them into your arms, believe me, you are in the right place at the right time. And that leads me to my third and final point. And I don't mean to sound corny, but I want to thank you for your patriotism. You know, there is nothing worse than what we are doing to this planet and to this country in the name of oil and other fossil fuels. Setting aside what we heard here a moment ago about coal, it is a finite resource. There's a lot of countries with a lot of it, but it actually is getting harder and harder to dig out of the ground, as we've seen from recent mine collapses and the environmental price we pay for blowing mountaintops off of mountains in Kentucky and so on. So there is no free lunch with any fuel, but there's less of a free lunch with fossil fuels. And when I say what you're doing is patriotic, stop and think about this for a minute. Why is it that we have bridges crumbling in Minneapolis? And why is it that we have a president who vetoed a $35 billion 5-year health care program for impoverished children? And why is it that we have a second or third-rate education system and it's going downhill fast? And why is it that we don't have money to invest in our own country? It's because we're subsidizing the oil industry alone to the tune of $100 billion every single year in terms of tax breaks and defense of oil and other benefits around the globe, and that's before factoring in the Iraq War, which now even Alan Greenspan tells us is largely due to defending oil around the globe. If you add that in, you're talking about $300 billion a year. If you add in health care costs directly related to petroleum air pollution, you're talking about even twice that number. Well, that's the reason we then say we don't have money for our domestic needs. And it's the reason that people hate us around the world. Make no mistake about that. So what you are doing is not only inventing and investing in our future, and I'm sure in this room there are people across the political spectrum, so forgive me for getting on a soapbox about the current administration and even the current Congress that allowed this to happen, but the fact is we are subsidizing our fossil fuel addiction at a breathtaking, I say that literally and figuratively, a breathtaking rate that is preventing us from investing in this country, and what you are doing will turn that around. So I thank you for your investment, your innovation, your creative thinking, your stick-to-itiveness, but also for your patriotism. Because I think the most patriotic thing we can do is to end these subsidies, to stop global warming, to put the breath back in the lungs of our children who are currently struggling for a breath because of asthma, or our elders who are dying early because of lung disease related to air pollution that's because of our fossil fuel addictions, and all of the other external costs that we pay that I think hydrogen can be a very, very important part of solving. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Keep it up. I'm sorry I've got to run to another engagement. I wish I could stay and talk to you more, but as they say in the movies, I'll be back. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything.